It was never going to be easy, was it, Derek? They're going to make it challenging all the way to the finish line. Vibes were great after a weekend sweep. Then Jose Feliciano and Kwanza Jones arrive Monday afternoon, thrill us all. Vibes just at an incredible level. And then the Pirates happened. A couple tough losses, scraped one by on Wednesday to make you feel a little bit better going on the road. But we were with AJ Cassavell on Sunday, and he was like, hey, they have a chance to not even make it dramatic down the stretch. And I don't know if we're going to be that fortunate, Derek.
No, especially because they're going now to play Tampa Bay on the road, while the Diamondbacks on Thursday night open up a 4-game series in San Francisco against the Giants, who are truly horrendous. So by Sunday, the Padres might be looking up at the Diamondbacks, just given, strength of schedule here. So you never know.
You never know. We will discuss that, just kind of what we've seen from the team in the last, I shouldn't say last week, because last weekend was great. It's the last few days that haven't been quite so encouraging, but we will certainly dive into that, the good and bad of it all, levels of concern, all that stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk some Jose and Kwanza, some pitching updates that were particularly notable from Craig Stammen on Wednesday, Casey Mize as well. We heard from him. So we'll dive into that over the course of the next 50 or so minutes. Good to be with you, as always, on an off day this week, the regular Thursday edition of the On Friar podcast. Appreciate OGs, all they do for On Friar and the NBC 7 sports team. They're on the road, so you can't watch games at Petco Park. If you need a place to catch them, head to OGs. Bunch of locations around San Diego County, tons of TVs at every location. So just a great spot to post up, have a good meal, explore their top-notch beer list, and have yourself a good time. So shout out to OGs. Appreciate all they do for us. Without further ado, the walk-up music. I think. It is the On Fire podcast, brought to you by NBC 7. Thursday afternoon, after the Padres salvage one game against the Pirates, and before they open up a weekend series against a really good Tampa Bay Rays team. He is Derek Togerson. I'm Darnay. How do we find you on this Thursday afternoon, Derek?
Running around like a chicken with my head cut off. How about you? Yep. Yeah, it's been rough.
Having some issues here. Hopefully that's not the case.
Oh, you are frozen. I just heard you say something that's not the case. Can you hear me all right?
I can't tell. I'm not hearing you, Derek.
I am hearing you.
Okay. We'll just
you were frozen for a little while.
Try to roll with it. Everything was smooth off the top, and I don't know what just happened. I'm hearing you fine now. Okay, looks like we're stabilized.
The system probably freaked itself out. You try to add one more thing.
I'm going to give it a second to catch
it. Goes haywire.
Also, a new laptop. We're both working on new laptops, which there's a lot of good things about new laptops, but they, kind of got to get them back into playing shape a little bit. So hopefully we are good from here on forward. But Derek, I'm sure let's get to the owner stuff a little bit later. Let's talk about the baseball team. What did you see the last few days?
I saw some really good starting pitching. I mean, some really good starting pitching. Just to start with a positive here, obviously. The starting pitching was tremendous. It was, Michael King did exactly what Michael King had to do. Coming after the bullpen had to use all 12 guys or whatever. They used 34 different pitchers on Monday in that extra inning game when nobody could figure out how to get a bunt down. And then Mike comes out there and goes 7 shutout, does exactly what he has to do on Tuesday. That's what a stopper does, what an ace does. Fully impressed by him. Randy Vasquez was fantastic on Wednesday. Why he got pulled so early, I have absolutely no idea, especially given the fact you don't have your 2 best high leverage arms available. He could have gone a lot deeper into that game. The starting pitching was amazing. I don't know why this team can't lay down bunts. I saw a lot of What do we? I mean, finally, Craig makes a good decision to have guys bunting in extra innings, and they can't get the job done. I mean, Jake Cronenworth is like he's Mr. Fundamentals, right? Why couldn't he get it done? So I don't even know who Dustin Harris is. You had to figure up here why are you not just do the one thing that might keep you on the major league roster for a little bit longer? You know, that was ridiculously obnoxious. So I mean, other than that, I mean, sometimes you're going to run into some really good pitchers, and the Pirates have some really good young starting pitchers. Ashcraft was really good. Skeens looked like he was back to being himself. Bubba Cooper was really good. Or so Bubba Chandler was really good. It's like they're really good when they're on. They're very inconsistent because they're young, but they were all on. And the fact that you had a chance to win all those games is pretty darn impressive, given what they were dealing with on the mound.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, it seemed like the kind of series where like offensively is going to be a struggle either way. You would feel a little bit better about it if they snuck away with that extra inning game on Monday, if Mason Miller doesn't give up a home run on Tuesday, and you score one more run than those guys in either of those games, we're talking about another series win, and there's a little bit less of kind of the concern what's going on with this team. It's almost September. You know, you're neck and neck with the Diamondbacks. They have seemed to have kind of gotten some life back under them after, you know, a weird week where Ketel Marte is at what's the name of the casino, the Whistling Stick or something like that.
Yeah, he's MIA for a while. That's been a weird situation for a while there.
And so you feel that's going on at this stage of the year. You feel like, okay, are they starting to tank? It doesn't seem like they're going to make it quite that easy. But again, one or two things go differently. I think it was 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position, 10 left stranded on Monday. If it's 2 for 13 and 8 left stranded, you know, how different do we feel right now based on as opposed to where we're at now? So, you know, that's part of it. I do. This was one of those weeks or one of those series certainly where there's, you know, some room to maybe second guess or criticize the manager, and you have not been shy about doing that. So I figured I'd give you an opportunity. If there's anything that was particularly glaring from the last 3 days that makes you feel like I'm just not sure, I'm just not comfortable with the guy in the top step, because I think I've been more of the Stammen apologist and defender than you. I think that's probably safe to say.
Yes, very much so.
Anything in particular that stuck out at you or bothered you from the last few days?
Well, the fact that you're asking means you have an idea. So what is it? What, because you usually typically don't broach this kind of subject because you have been the Stammen apologist, which is completely valid, by the way, completely valid. So what did you see that's making you kind of go, I don't like that?
Well, no, I think it's
under the dark side, Darnay.
No, I think it's just fair. And I, you know, more than anything, I want to be fair. I care about being fair more than I care about defending Craig Stammen. And, you know, putting in Kyle Hart where he did on Wednesday ended up working out. Risky, certainly at the time, does speak to the depth of the bullpen. Bradley Rodriguez, absolute stud. The Yuki Matsui sprint to the dugout is like one of my favorite things. I love that. And so kudos to them for getting it done. Again, I think like the bunting piece was frustrating. Again, that's, you know, more of like an execution thing. I also didn't necessarily understand starting. Like, did you need to start Dustin Harris on Monday? Like you sent Sung Moon Song down because the at-bats weren't there. So you don't necessarily need to. You could have just played Sung Moon Song on Monday and Tuesday if you were going to play that guy. So why'd you have to play? And then part of me was thinking, could Sung Moon Song have laid down a bunt? Guy's a little bit older, I think a little bit more experienced, maybe not at the major league level. So that was also kind of going through my mind, like curious, you not ditched a guy. You sent a guy down because he's not playing, and then you play his replacement 2 days later. He could just play that guy for a day or two, and then whoever's, you know, Austin Hayes or whoever it is, throw them out there, Renhefo and outfield, throw him out there. So I thought that was puzzling. You could criticize the decision to pitch Mason Miller again after throwing 30 pitches on Thursday. He was at 3 or 4 days at that point, 4 or 5 after Tuesday, but he said after the game, Mason Miller said, I'm good to go. And you trusted Mason Miller and he's earned that trust. So a few different things, but I'm more concerned what you think, because I think you probably feel a little bit more strongly on the matter.
Well, the Dustin Harris thing, I mean, if you're sending down Sung Moon Song, because he's not getting at bats, then you don't bring up another infielder, bring up a guy who's primarily an outfielder. So, you have another left-handed hitting outfielder. I know you want another left-handed bat, whatever, fine. But if you want to get guys who are outfielders at bats, then Jace Bowen should have been the guy in there. He's at least got a lot more, big league experience, especially recently, than Dustin Harris does. And Jace has shown the ability to put down a bunt. Why not just have him in there?
Yeah.
It was just kind of weird all the way around, now. And again, that's the personnel thing is not really in Craig's hands, right? That is an organizational thing. Like, hey, we want to send Song down, want to bring this Harris kid up, is swinging the bat well at AAA, whatever. My bigger issue was having him back out there again on Tuesday and asking him to bunt in what was the third inning, something like that. Third or fourth inning, Xander Bogaerts leads off with a single, and you're going to have him bunt there. So you're going to have him. You bring him up because you think that his bat can help you. That's the only reason to bring him up and send Sung Song down and bring yourself an extra outfielder when there are already a lot of outfielders on this roster. And then you ask him to bunt early in a game that is really not a bunting situation. It almost felt like Craig was trying to say, you're going to do this until you figure it the hell out. I've spoken. Like, do it now. I don't. Every time you go up there now and you lay bunt down, you are going to bunt. It was this is not the situation to be teaching a lesson. Not the time of the year. The big leagues is not, learning time. Okay, the big leagues is playing time. So I didn't get that at all. Like the decisions to bunt in extra innings. Yes, you do that. That's what you do, right? That makes all the sense in the world when you're chasing one run. You got two more guys coming up who are both able to hit the ball in the air and drive in a run. That's what you do. They didn't execute the bunts. Doing it in the second or third or fourth inning makes no sense. No sense. I mean, guys didn't used to have pitchers do that before the universal DH. Like, what are we doing here? That's the one I didn't get. And then Vasquez coming out after throwing 60-something pitches through 5 innings. Yeah. He was knowing that your bullpen was taxed on Monday, knowing that you don't have Morahone or Miller available, so you're not trying to make this a 6-inning game because you don't have those guys. To pull him after that because you had a couple of lefties coming up. So you bring Kyle Hart in. Okay, well, Kyle Hart didn't get the lefties out. But then if you want the left-right matchup, you've got Griffin Canning ready to go, and you leave Hart out there to get through a bunch of tough righties. Like this, that's my biggest problem with Stanman is there's no consistency to what they say the strategy is. It's I'll try it this time, or maybe I'll do it this. I wanted to get Randy out there because he had a couple of lefties coming up. Well, if you wanted a guy who Kyle Hart been really good against lefties, hasn't been historically as good against right-handers, but you're going to leave him in there to do that. So which is it? And that's why I never understand where they're coming from. That's my biggest problem with Craig.
Yeah, and I'm sure the experience part and what the splits look like might have something to do with it. But to that last point that you made, Robbie Ray goes out there for the 6th. What was it, on Monday, and gives up the home run. I think he ends up being charged with 2 runs. One came across after he'd come out. And at that point, he was at like 89 pitches. And you're thinking like, okay, did you need to do that? Did he need to go back out there for the 6th? And so they give him a little bit more of a leash. And so different parts of the game. I don't know exactly where the Pirates lineup was at that point. But that was a situation where, they pushed their starter, and then on Wednesday, a situation where, logically speaking, you could have sent Randy out there, and if it doesn't look good for a batter or two, have somebody ready to go.
Randy was cruising, man.
Randy was
cruising. I think that boils directly down to, and we've talked about this before, Robbie Ray's a veteran. He's got a decade in the game. He's won a Cy Young Award. Craig's going to trust those guys more than a guy like Randy Vasquez, who simply hasn't done it as much. And again, this is what I don't get. He doesn't look at what's happening right in front of him. Randy Vasquez is cruising. He's really good. Have somebody hot and ready to go. Have a lefty and a righty, getting more on where they're then 2 minutes away from being able to heat themselves up and come in, but not fully, wasting their bullets in a full blown warm-up bullpen session. Have them ready. Have that safety net ready when you got a 2-run lead. If he walks somebody, puts that tying run at the plate, Okay, now you can go out and get him, but you got to give him the opportunity to come out there. He was not laboring as much as Robbie Ray was laboring on Monday night, but Ray's a veteran who's been there. Craig trusts veterans. Randy hasn't done it as often, so he got him out of there because he doesn't have a track record. And that's what I don't get, because he was doing it great in that moment. Let the guy ride.
Yeah, I think if anything, Craig has shown that he errs on the side of leaving guys in too long.
Which is what he would, except starting pitchers. Or Mason Miller after he's thrown 10 pitches in the ninth inning, and don't bring him out there again for the 10th.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah. I mean, credit to the bullpen. I think it was a reminder of just how deep and how good those guys are. Yuki in a leverage spot, which we don't see all the time. Bradley, just he's been awesome, continues to be awesome, and that time in a really big spot. It wasn't easy either. I mean, Randy had some traffic early, and it seemed like almost every single inning it was 2-on with 1 out, and they were having to get out of a jam, and they did it. They got the shutout, and so super impressive. But there was that period in the game where Randy comes out, and you're like, this could very easily backfire, and Craig is facing some tough questions after the game and in the days that followed, but fortunately they were able to avoid that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that's what scares me about the postseason, right? I mean, you can get through a regular season by doing this kind of stuff. You can toss a couple games here and there. The problem is I haven't seen enough, and he has changed the way he's done stuff, and we've talked about it on this podcast as well. As he has learned from a few things, and he has done things differently after things don't work out. But then I see him kind of drifting back to doing those things that didn't work out again. And in the regular season, again, a manager you can get away with a guy kind of learning on the job. In the postseason, there is no margin for error. I mean, zero, zip, zilch, none, nada, nothing.
Yeah.
And he might be a great vibes guy. And in the regular season, vibes are fantastic. Vibes will get you 85, 89 wins. In the postseason, vibes don't work anymore. Now it's what do you do in the most crucial of moments? And if it comes down to that, every other manager is going to be in the postseason will have an edge on Craig Stammen, and that terrifies me.
Yeah, for sure. I think purely from a pitching standpoint, I do feel really good. If Joe's able to come back and do anything, if Casey Mize shakes off the ankle and he's fine, if what we've seen from Randy and King and Buehler of late, continues to some extent over the course of the next month plus, and then the pitching chaos experience, I feel like they've got the tools necessary, certainly to get you through that wild card series where, say, Michael King starts game 1, gives up 3 runs in the first 4 innings, and he's at 80 pitches, 90 pitches, and you just got to get him out. And you're like, okay, we got to cover a lot of distance here. You got the arms to do it. And if that complicates things by game 2 or game 3 with the bullpen, we've seen, they've got the arms to do it. But at the same time, to your point, it is a baseball thing. The ball will find you, right? Inevitably, There's going to be some tough decision that Craig Stammen's going to have to make in the heat of the moment. The ball's going to find him, and is he able to make the play with the help of Randy Knorr and Randy Ruben Niebla and Steven Souza on down the line? Are they able to make the right call in that moment? Because that moment is going to present itself maybe at multiple points through the course of a wild card series. That is the great unknown, but I do find purely just from a numbers body standpoint, maybe the experience that they went through, they had to really scuffle to get by, could end up serving them well in the long term, because there could be a couple games where they have to get really creative in that wild card series as well.
Oh yeah, that's all hands on deck. That is that is when everybody's available every single day. It doesn't matter. So that's the fun part. And actually, that is where I will say that whole pitching chaos thing they went through, that gives them a massive edge when you're talking about a postseason series, especially a wild card's best out of 3 kind of thing, where somebody goes out there and you don't have to roll with your starter hoping he can get you through 4 innings, because you've got guys who can cover 2-2-2-1. You've seen it. They've shown you this against good high caliber competition. So That's awesome. My question is with Craig, when will he choose how and when to use them and in what order to use them and how long to use them? Right? Like they've got the ability to do it as long as it's executed properly and they're utilized and employed in the proper way. And again, that is the thing that I just don't know about.
Yeah. Let's get to the offensive side of things. Or I guess since we're talking pitching, quick pitching update. Casey Mize good to go for Friday. We chatted with him. He said he'll probably be a little bit more careful walking down the steps after that, after what happened. What day was that? Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday.
And but he's progressed to the point where they feel comfortable sending him out there Friday. Nick Pivetta, all reports are good from his Tuesday start in Lake Elsinore. Got a bullpen coming up, so hopefully he's all clear to continue to progress from there. And then Joe, today for El Paso, I think in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
And fingers crossed that's his last one. Had the back thing that flared up that AJ Cassavell seemed to suggest not a big deal, just kind of a workload thing as he's building up. But hopefully we are seeing Joe soon. Things go smoothly on Thursday, and he's back on a major league mound for the first time.
I'm watching that game tonight.
No doubt.
Yeah, 5:45 Pacific time start.
Is that what it is? Nice. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people paying close attention to that one and hoping that things continue to go smoothly for Joe and we get him back soon. All right, from the offensive side of things, Thor on Facebook, appreciate everybody watching and chiming in. Hit the chat. We'll get to your comments throughout the show. I was glad to see Jackson get a couple hits yesterday. He had been scuffling at the plate. And Stammen talked about it. We talked with Merrill on Wednesday, and Stammen said Jackson was at his locker for about an hour in uniform after the game on Monday, just like trying to figure it out, and wrap his head around where things went wrong on Monday, got some help from the hitting staff and, tough day on Tuesday as well. But then was Jackson Merrill once again on Wednesday. Had a great quote. He's like, some days I'm going to be the worst ball player you see. Other days I'm going to look like the best player on the planet. And yesterday was one of those days where he looked more like the best player on the planet. A double, triple, walk. He was awesome. And I think another, something that Jackson said afterwards that I thought was poignant was like, he seemed relieved that, he went through this a lot early in the season. He kind of had a laugh about that as well. He's had a few games here or there last couple weeks that haven't been great, and then he pops up and has a really good game. He's like, it's just nice that it's like day to day and it's not going for weeks and going for months like it was early in the season. It's just part of the process. Baseball is hard. I think he understands that. And so nice to see that in a stretch where he's not been as dynamic as he was for July, the start of this month, but it's also he's getting down, but not staying down. And that's obviously very important.
Yeah. He just pulled out of that one really fast, which is great. And that's baseball, man. I'm not to get too Buddy Black on everybody, but no one these days is going to hit 360 for an entire season. Not even Luis Ariz is going to do that anymore. He was really good for a while, and then teams made a couple of adjustments. You always start to go into a slump when you're super hot, and you always start to come out of a slump. You always start to get super hot when you're in the middle of the slump. It just takes a minute for the changes and the things to go. When you're swinging the bat well and everything's working, you almost kind of go unconscious for a minute, and then teams will make a little bit of an adjustment as they see how you've been handling things, and they'll start giving you a steady diet of something else. And you have to make that adjustment. And sometimes the adjustments are a little bit slower to come. But then once it clicks in your head, like, oh, I'm seeing more sinkers, whatever it may be. Because remember early in the year, he was facing high fastballs and he couldn't handle them to save his life. And then there was a 3-4 week stretch where he hit like 6 home runs on high fastballs. So he's not seeing those anymore because now he's handling those. And now he's seeing stuff down. He's the softer stuff down and away, sinkers down. So now he's got to make that little bit of an adjustment to go back and get that. And then it's always that ebb and flow of the game. That's why Tony Gwynn was so freaking good, because there was no hole. There was nothing you could throw to get him out. He sees the ball in strike zone, doesn't matter what pitch it is, what count it is, who it is on the mound. He's lining that thing somewhere, and it's going to be a base hit and it's going to be hit hard. That's why he's, there's one of one. There's only one Tony Gwynn who has ever walked this earth. He's that guy. So Jackson's just got to try to figure it out again. Okay, they're going to approach me a little bit differently. Oh, now I'm seeing this. Okay, go down and get that. You kind of get grooved in one area, and then you got to go find and groove yourself in another area again. So Jackson's going to be just fine. I think he's kind of learned the system and how to make the adjustments as teams adjust to him.
Yeah, I think, he's just an interesting guy in that, like, he's not going to work counts for the sake of working counts, typically speaking, not a big walk rate guy. Mm-hmm. We love him for his aggression, and he drives us nuts sometimes because of his aggression. And whenever he does go on a run where he hits a couple homers off that high fastball, there's that little thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, we're going to see him swinging at some pitches a foot out of the zone because he's handled them. He knows he can handle them.
He's feeling himself. Yep.
And so sometimes that gets carried away. And there are a couple at-bats this week where it looked like early season Jackson Merrill where, like, he's maybe in his head a little bit. He's slowed down. Or maybe the game is sped up on him a little bit. And, a pitch that is in the zone that he can handle, he just watches it go by. You're like, wait a second, that's not Jackson Merrill. And then you maybe see him expand the zone a little bit more. And I think it was AJ who had a really good piece when Merrill came out of his slump, just about how, like, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to swing at some of those pitches. But as he gets into his groove, his swing decisions do get better. And swing decisions, they aren't 100% just strike or not. It's, can you do something with this or not?
Right.
And there were a couple pitches, to your point, I think on Monday, where you see the golf swing. It's like at his shins, and you're like, Jackson, come on, man. You have done something with those pitches before, but, like, at this moment, that's not what you need to be looking for.
It's not advantageous in that moment, right? You can see a better pitch.
You can see a better pitch. And so I think that might be a career-long challenge for him. Unless he just studies at the school of Juan Soto for a couple off seasons, just decides I'm going to be a strike zone guy and that's it. But I don't see that happening. I see him being a guy that is aggressive, that will expand the zone and goes through some stretches where it doesn't go well for him. And then the game speeds up on him a little bit and he's thinking a little bit too much. And then he just kind of has to work his way out of that a little bit. That's not going to keep him from being a dynamic all-star level, really good, potentially MVP level player. But it might cause some games, some series, some weeks that aren't ideal.
He's not wired like Juan Soto. He's not wired like Ted Williams. He's not wired like Mike Trout. He's not. He is more wired like Joe DiMaggio, where if his team needs a hit, he'll go outside the strike zone and swing it because he knows he can handle it. And some guys have to be that way, right? Like if you tried to make Jackson Merrill a purely in the strike zone kind of hitter, I think he'd paralyze himself trying to wait for that perfect pitch because that's not the way his brain works. His brain works with, I'm not letting you come to me. I'm coming after you. And that's how he's at his best. And that's how he has to play the game to be at his best. Soto's wired in a way. It was like, screw you. I'm not doing anything until you come to me and I'm ready for you whenever you come to me. I think if Jackson gets to that point where it's like, I'm only going to be ready for you when you come to me, it's almost like he'll never be able to pull the trigger because he has to be in attack mode. You know what I mean? So it's some guys, his head is just built in a certain way that he's going to be successful by coming after you, which is going to lead to a lot of early swings. And then as long as he's doing that at hittable pitches, fantastic, great. Because if he takes a couple and it's 2-0, now guess what? I can guarantee you he's going to see something he's going to be chomping at the bit to go after him. Becomes an exponentially better hitter even in that way. But he has to be a guy who's never going to have a huge walk rate because he has to be of that mindset. As he said it last year, he said it right to me. I lost my FU attitude. And once I got my FU attitude back, I was fine. So he's got the FU attitude. As long as he keeps that all the time and is not just reacting to a strike and is actively hunting the pitcher, that's when he'll be at his best.
Yeah. There's the Manny finger issue. Manny did not talk.
Manny gave us all the finger again.
Not that type of finger issue.
What did he say this time?
He did not. He wasn't hanging out in the clubhouse when we were around post game yesterday. Stammen said, I think either Monday or Tuesday, something with, I think, his index finger, and when he hits the ball a certain way, it rattles a little bit and causes him some pain. And so that's why we've seen him kind of favor his finger a little bit at points. And, the number. How much of an issue that is, I don't know, but or how much it's contributing to the stretch where Manny has cooled off, I don't know, but something to look out for. And it's a finger that I think it's a bruise. It doesn't seem super serious, doesn't seem IL worthy. Now, is it a couple days off worthy? That can be challenging to convince Manny Machado to take a couple of days off, but especially given the stakes of every game, but something to keep an eye on in the days and weeks ahead.
Well, there's a problem. The manager shouldn't have to convince a player to do anything. You should tell him you're sitting your butt on the bench. That's the manager's prerogative. That's his job.
Well, I know.
That's the level of power. I know, but here's the thing: like the way that you phrase that is absolutely right. That's a problem. Because Machado has that much pull and power in that clubhouse, especially with a guy who used to be a teammate of his. No, you're not taking me out of the lineup. Yeah, I am. Shut up and go sit down. Maybe you can pinch it later if we need to. Because as you know, fingers are what you hold the bat with. Last I checked. And if he is not able to be the same guy with a bat in his hands, you should give him the time to go back to being him with a bat in his hands, especially with a chance. There are 28 games left in the season. You don't want that thing lingering going into if you are able to make it to the postseason. Sit him down now and have him be good for the last 24 games of the year. Let that go. You've got other guys who are allegedly capable of being able to handle it. And unless you're saying Sung Moon Song down to bring up an outfielder, you don't have any more infielders left. When you bring Tatis in to play second, move Cronenworth to third. There you go. Boom. You maybe got your outfield, your infield is set up again. But sit him down. We need that guy to be at his best, and he's not at his best. And if there's something directly contributing to that can be addressed and healed or fixed, why don't you take care of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's essentially why they are having Jeremiah Estrada deal with whatever his shoulder impingement now, and that's what Stammen said, have him take care of that. And hopefully we have him for the stretch run. Now would be the right time to do that. And I guess more so what I was trying to say was like, how many games is too many games for Manny to the point where like Manny at 80, 85%, whatever he is right now, like is still better than whatever the options are behind him for 3 or 4 games when you're in the middle of a playoff chase. I do think like, hey, maybe Friday in Tampa, give him, so he ends up getting 2 days off back to back. Maybe that's a good idea. And maybe you commit to like one other day against, is it the Reds they have after that? And then the Yankees?
Reds and the Yankees. The Yankees come to town here at Petco Park.
Yeah, and so like, hey, you're going to get 2 days, 1 day in each of these series on the road. Probably a good idea at this point if it helps that finger heal a little bit and gets him healthier and closer to 100% for the last few weeks.
Yeah, but they're going back to Florida right now to play. He has to play in Florida.
It's not South Florida.
It's
Central Gulf.
Florida. Central Florida. It's right there. It's right there in the middle. It's kind of like where Florida and Georgia actually meet. It's just still right there in the sticks.
So we'll see what comes of that. But that was, I think, of concern. It doesn't sound like a major issue, but you want Manny Machado to be Manny Machado, and it seems to be contributing perhaps to him not being the best version of himself at the moment. So we'll see about that. Trying to think anything else from the kind of the offensive side of things.
How about this? 619 Cam 8. Crony's been the man of late, especially defensively. He's been swinging the bat really well.
Yeah.
That's this man. If he had not gotten that fastball in the face, man, and had to deal with that concussion stuff for a couple of months, like this would have been for the entirety of the season. This would have been Jake Cronenworth's best year as a professional. He made those swing changes in the offseason, was killing it in spring training, man. He's showing you now what he could have been doing the whole year. So Jake's been amazing.
Yeah. Well, and do you sneak away with a few more wins in May and the first part of June? If, when the lineup was struggling, and there were games where you're not hitting with runners in scoring position and you felt like you were one swing away, like some of those at-bats find Jake Cronenworth, and the version of Jake Cronenworth we've seen since he's come back, like you probably might deliver in a couple of those spots and maybe you're a couple games better off. So I love it for Jake. after, some seasons where you're like, okay, what does that contract look like? What does Jake look like? What's happening here? And last year, was a step in the right direction, and good to see him continue that. Bummer that it happened after the concussion, but, better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah, and like I said, somebody who's dealt with concussions, man, those things are just insidious. So it's great to see him and Freddie Fermin both being over that for right now. That's been fantastic.
I halfway joked. I'd say I was 35% joking about Tatis getting having a 30-30 season. I'm off that take after Sunday. Now 3 games without. He had gone like a homer every other game, unless he hits like 4 home runs in Tampa Bay. I think I'm off that as an outside possibility, but that was a fun thing to track for a day or two.
If anybody can hit him in bunches, man, that's a dude who can hit him in bunches. Yeah, I was with you. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's probably still not out of the realm of possibility, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
Is it a probability? By no means. but he can get to half of that 30.
It's like 13 and 28 games, I think, is left, So We'll see. He can do it. Speaking of home runs, did not expect to see Mason Miller give up a home run, which was stunning. I mean, when you heard that swing and saw it, and you're like, is that thing going to fly over the fence? What on earth just happened? Mm-hmm. I wasn't there that night. I can imagine what the reaction was like in the stadium, but that was
dude, it went silent.
Staggering thing to see.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect to see Mason Miller give up a home run and then be like an even bigger Mason Miller fan an hour or so afterwards.
Yeah, he's so awesome. He really is. It was he throws a heater at 101.5 to O'Neal Cruz and can't catch up with it. And then he throws a changeup. And by the way, the changeup was 98. So first of all, what the hell? a change up at 98. Here's the problem. He doesn't throw very many of those, and I can see what he was thinking.
It was his 22nd of the season.
Yeah, typically it's like 95, and it's got some arm side run, right? But he threw it so hard that run wasn't there. So it was basically like a 98-mile-an-hour fastball, which for everybody else is amazing. For Mason Miller is, oh God, no, what have you done?
Yeah. So
the fact that he threw that pitch and missed with the location because there was no run, it wasn't outside. Yeah, exactly. It was basically just like you could hear a pin drop in there, except for the 18 Pirates fans who were hanging out.
Sure. But
when he left in the middle of the plate, and so basically he took 4 miles an hour off his fastball, and Cruz just detonated it because that's a guy who has one of the highest average exit velocities in Major League Baseball when he makes contact. And there was that thing was like it was a clothesline, just gone. And for a second, I didn't know it was going to be high enough to get over the fence. Like he just smashed it. And Mason afterwards came out and said, listen, I'm enough of a self-realist to be like, that was a stupid pitch. That was a stupid decision to make. And when he came out and just owned it and said that, I was like, my God, I love this guy. I already love the guy. But the fact that he just came out and just like, dude, I don't know what I was doing. I just, every now and then you make a bad decision, you make a brain fart, you're driving somewhere, you turn left when you got to turn right. You're like, what the heck was I thinking? What am I doing? That was dumb. Mm-hmm. That's basically the equivalent of Mason Miller throwing a changeup in that situation and getting it in the middle of the strike zone. So, yeah, he's, as they said, he is human. We forget that sometimes because he seems superhuman. Probably going to ditch the changeup for a while, work on it, maybe get in the offseason, stick with the fastball slider combo. But that was, just the fact that he was able to just go like, maybe I just didn't execute. I'm not going to shy away. He's like, listen, that was just stupid. And the fact he was able to just own up and get right to the point was like, love you, man. That is fantastic. You're off the hook.
It's a lot. It's a lesson to a lot of athletes out there.
Yeah, seriously.
And people in positions of power, when you make a mistake, little accountability and owning it, that helps with the public perception piece of things.
That's why we all forgive guys like Jeremy Giambi and Mark McGwire, but we still vilify Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Because the other guys like, we did it. Everyone was doing it. We did it. Whatever. I'm going, okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. Those guys keep on saying, I didn't do a thing. I'm like, yes, you did. Shut up and just admit it, and you'll be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Just admit it.
So yeah, called himself an idiot, said it was stupid, said there was something in the scouting report that made them decide to go with that pitch, but obviously regretted doing so. And that was, oh no, that was day after his birthday. His birthday was Monday. So happy late birthday to you, Mason Miller. But yeah, cool to see him handle that like an absolute pro. And that's, as we're thinking about his potential long-term future with the Padres, like that type of thing is another reason why you might want to pay to keep a guy like that around.
Yeah, you got a guy who's going to be accountable. And the fact he even said, like, listen, like, yeah, I threw a lot of pitches yesterday, but so did everybody else. That's part of my, and the word he used was responsibility. It's my responsibility to my teammates.
Who did that make you think of? Who did that make you think of, Derek?
Yeah, Josh Hader's dumbass. That was that was the exact opposite of what we're used to hearing. And I'm going, like, just the fact he even has that mentality, you keep that guy around.
Yeah. Yeah, and he said, like, I felt fine. It was nothing about like fatigue, feeling like I didn't have the right stuff. Like I just threw a dumb pitch, and I didn't execute that pitch. So there you go. Kudos to Mason Miller for handling that as well as he did. A couple more comments before we spend the last 10 minutes or so talking about Jose and Kwanza. Let's see. Yeah, I was wondering about this as well. Eugenio Suarez, but he has since cleared waivers and will stay with the Reds.
Yes.
So that could have been fun, potentially.
Could be interesting. Yeah. Guys, obviously, he's got a pretty decent postseason resume.
Yes, for sure. All right, 619 Cam. Love the energy of the new owners, especially Kwanza. They seem genuine, but time will tell. Be interesting how much play AJ will have in the offseason. That's certainly one of the big questions. Is it 2 years after this on his new deal? I think it was 2 years through 28. So we'll see. I don't know. Nothing that was said would make me feel concerned, but it was also an introductory press conference, so you can only put so much into it. And we got to see how the Padres finish out the season. If they finish out the season and Mason Miller and Adrian Morejon and, the guys that decide to keep Robbie Ray and Casey Mize, the big contracts they've handed out, those guys are productive in an impressive postseason run, that's going to be a feather in AJ Preller's cap and so on and so forth. But what was your, we've had a few days to kind of process what we heard. Is there anything in particular that has been of interest to you or top of mind since Monday afternoon?
I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. Yeah, we experienced it. I'll tell you what I thought at the time. And I know this is the natural cynic in me, and there's a very large part of me that when things look too perfect, it makes my little alarm bell start to go off. And as I said on NBC that night at 4:00, that was arguably the best introductory press conference that I have ever been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of them in 30 years. And it seemed like, wow, this is incredibly well orchestrated, and Kwanza is a performer to the core. She's fun. And when they were asked about whether or not they were going to be financially investing into this team, they sidestepped every single question. Well, it's going to have to depend on year by year. Well, it's going to have, we never know. While chasing that but we're here to win. So all the platitudes were there. All the things you're supposed to say at a press conference were there. This is not Nick Sirianni with the Eagles. All right. This was they nailed it. They had enough media training to come out and go, bam, I'm going to hit all the points. I'm going to give you, tug on all your heartstrings, talk about Peter, talk about legacy, talk about the community. We're going to do all that. But when pressed for anything even partially specific about the organization or the running of the team or what plans they have for it or collective bargaining or how they're going to go about, looking at the off season or how much AJ has to work with, it was, we'll wait and see. And that gives me pause, because when Ron and Peter took over, they were like, dude, we're gonna turn this thing around. Yeah, we're not gonna spend for a while. We're gonna build this thing up. We're gonna try and build the organization, and eventually we're gonna come out and we're gonna do it. And there was something like, okay, I got that. That outlined something resembling a plan. They outlined nothing resembling a plan other than this is fun. We're happy to be here. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, it was fun. It was great. It was energetic. It was fun. They were soundbite machines, which in TV we love. They were quote monsters. Fan-damn-tastic. But we didn't learn anything substantive at all. And again, that makes me feel a little, I got some qualms about this now.
Yeah. Back to 619 Cam. The song Kwanza made was pretty impressive. By the way, do you see them forming relationships with the players like Peter did?
I don't
like Peter. I don't know. I mean, that's setting a pretty high bar.
Peter genuinely loved people, right? I think what Kwanza was able to do is they will have relationships with the players. Yes, they'll be available to talk to them. Will they be buddies like Peter was? Will they be genuine, like inviting them over to their house for cocktails? Like real legitimately wanting to learn about them and their families and get to know them on that regard? I honestly don't know. But they're also not going to be like the vast majority of owners, like Jerry Reinsdorfs of the world, Major League Baseball, who just own the team and nobody ever sees them because they're never around. They just don't care. They just want to turn their profits. So they'll be much closer to that. They will have relationships with a lot of the players, but they won't be the same way that Peter was. Peter was invested in all their lives.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I don't know. I think they'll be around enough to do that. They're younger. They can probably, because their backgrounds probably relate to players, better than maybe John Seiler could. A guy that wasn't necessarily seemed to be oozing with personality and didn't seem to be the most charismatic individual. Same with Eric Atsenda. And Manny was asked about this. He was asked about his relationship with Peter, potentially having a similar relationship with these guys. And obviously, sounds like something that he values. And you mentioned Manny's voice in the organization, whether or not it is too prominent a voice in the organization. I think those star type players like feeling heard and understood. And he did say that, he's like, I didn't have that in Baltimore, who I believe was Peter Angelos at that point in Baltimore, mm-hmm. no longer in control of the team, was probably viewed about as negatively as maybe any owner in Major League Baseball at that time.
He was.
The way he ran
they had a couple of great years in the 90s, and then he let it all fall apart because he didn't want to spend any money on anybody.
Yeah.
They would never get, they'd have somebody come up and be great and then just let them go, let them walk. It was, he never tried to build that at all. He was vilified in Baltimore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how much they are around. He still runs a business in Malibu. So, I think that's still home for them. Sounds like they're going to have a place in San Diego based on what Kwanza said about basically crowdsourcing recommendations for the city of San Diego. They're trying to figure out their place here. How often we see them?
They're in the same tax bracket as all of us fans are. Yeah, we can totally help with that.
Yeah.
That was cringy. That part was, yeah, tell us, kind of give us a recommendation on where to live. Like, you're not going to listen to come on out to Lakeside. Come on out. It's great out here. That'd be fantastic. No, don't try and make us feel like we're actually part of your journey here when you're sitting here buying something for $1.7 billion of your own money and then ask for recommendations where all but 1% of us cannot fathom living. Come on.
I appreciate the sentiment behind it. But when that gets settled and how
ballpark pretzel, there you go. Bam. Baja sounds great.
Well, I will say I heard more references to the Baja community in that 45 minutes than I think I've heard or seen from the Padres in my 7+ years covering, obviously the city connects, there were the vibes and that sort of thing. But that seems very intentional. That's one thing I'm curious about is how much outreach engagement do we see to get more fans, more of a following up from Mexico? Are there business opportunities? Are there revenue opportunities? But that seemed like if they had a sheet with talking points, like clearly Baja community was on that sheet because they hammered that.
Oh yeah, absolutely they did. And that's going to be a lot of where a lot of the revenue comes from. And they want to absolutely. I mean, the Dodgers have always been the team ever since Fernando Valenzuela. The Dodgers have been kind of synonymous with Mexican baseball, and the Padres want to take a large chunk of that, as they should. They're right.
Yeah.
We share a border with them. The games are broadcast there. Like this, they should be catering to that area because a lot of people come up here from Tijuana and Rosarito and they then Ensenada and they watch games and they come to Petco Park and they're Padres fans. So that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. So interesting to see what comes of that. I think that's really promising. We'll see what happens after the season, winter meetings, free agency. We'll get a better idea kind of the finances and how aggressive they're willing to be. Can they hammer out a deal for Adrian Moreau? Do they get an extension done with Mason Miller on down the line? So that is to be seen. I think more so here and now, I'm kind of curious, just like the visibility of them. How much do we see Jose? How much do we see Kwanza? What percentage is it Jose doing the talking as a control person? Is it like 90% Jose and, a little bit of Kwanza here or there? Is it closer to a 50-50 split in terms of presence or engagement, how often they're talking to the media? So little things like that from our standpoint, like how much we see and hear those guys.
Yeah, right now, I don't care. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. They can't approve a trade. They can't approve an acquisition. Right. They can't there's nothing. I don't care if they show up at the ballpark again. And once we get to the off season, now I want to hear from them a lot. I want to see them everywhere. I want to hear them talking about everything. That's after the season's over, as far as that goes, that's when I want to hear from them. Right now, got to meet you. Fantastic. Nice song. Don't care anything. Don't care anymore. Let's play baseball.
Let's play baseball. Well done. We'll go out on that. Thank you, Derek. Thank you to everybody watching and listening, and we will be with you next week.